There are some things about you that will be you from the beginning of your existence to the end. You may forget them, right? They may get hidden deep within you, and society may try to wash it out of you. But those things will always be there. They'll always be a part of you. They're not going anywhere. Part of the journey of life is finding those things. Part of the journey of life is discovering what it really is that you're passionate about, and who you really are. That's part of the journey. In some sense, we're all on that journey. We're all discovering, and we're all discovering it together. That doesn't mean that society is going to make it easy for you, right? In The Count of Monte Cristo, Edmond Dantes lived 15 years in Château d'If. It's 15 years of subjugation, 15 years of eating prison food, 15 years in the darkness, right? Not knowing, was there going to be another day? He cursed God at one point. He almost killed himself at one point, right? Came out of the prison with a beard down to his chest, That's a significant amount of terror and trauma, right? Sometimes society tries to rob you of that thing more than others. Sometimes society tries to rob you of your soul more than anything else, right? So how do you preserve that? How do you maintain that, right? It's one of the reasons why whenever I meet somebody and I ask them, hey, what is your dream? What do you want to become? They'll tell me, oh, I want to become like a banker. It's like, okay. Or an accountant or a lawyer or one of these quote unquote complicit jobs. You hear these complicit jobs, ones that you're complicit to, basically society and everything like that. I'm like, cool. That's great for you. And in my mind, I'm thinking that's great for you if that's really your dream, because we need lawyers, we need accountants, we need bankers. I just withdrew $500 from my bank yesterday because I had to go pay something. We need these people. But is that really you? Let me check on that real quick. So I asked them some questions. I'm like, hey, so what is it about? Where did you come from? What do you like? What was it that you dreamed of as a child? It doesn't take long before I often find that the thing that they're saying that they want to become is different from the thing that I'm seeing in them at that moment. And it comes down to perception. Another character for you. Sherlock Holmes and Arsène Lupin. These two characters, one, greatest detective of all time. The other one, greatest thief of all time. These two characters were immensely perceptive, right? Sherlock Holmes, he could shake your hand, feel something in the hand, and detect what profession you were. Arsène Lupin, he could basically break into anything without you even knowing he was there and steal something, right? And that requires a high level of perception. That's the whole archetype behind these characters, right? So something that I strive to embody myself. Like I strive to be perceptive because so much of the modern world is about judgment. It's not about perceiving things. It's not about seeing beyond the seen. It's about living like other people, not living different, living like. Very little individuation there. Very little being you, being true to yourself in that. And so when I embody that and I ask somebody some questions, it's not quick. It doesn't take long for me to find like, oh, wait a second. No. You're really this. And as soon as you point the finger on it, you get one or two reactions. They're either like, no, and they try to shut it down immediately. They don't want to have that conversation because they don't have that conversation with themselves. Because it would require a radical shift in the way that they're treating their lives. Because it would require that they start to reorient their lives. And it might really, really cause them to have pain. To think that they had lost time on something that they weren't really interested in. Or to think that now that they have to go on this new, harder and more difficult path, because that's typically the path of following one's dream. It's not a comfortable realization for people. So either they'll deny it outright, or their brain will start clicking. They'll be listening, like, yeah, no. I was one time with somebody, and we were talking about their dream, and as soon as I said, like, hey, it sounds like this is actually your dream, they just would start thinking, it's like, you know what, everything you're saying makes a lot of sense. And it resonated with them, and you can tell when something resonates with someone. When you perceive something about somebody's being, about their identity, about who they are, it's like a light goes off in their head and you can see the change of expression on their face. You know, it's very quick. It's like a, you know, like an eye-opening experience for them. I really like those eye-opening experiences. There's something great about helping someone actualize something about themselves. There's something great about bringing something out of someone, you know. It fulfills me, you know, to see that, you know, just by engaging in almost like a Socratic dialogue, asking them questions back and forth, like I can get to the root of who you are, and, you know, you can do with that information what you will. You know, hey, if you discover that you want to be the world's next greatest novelist, cool, go out and be that. You know, who's stopping you? Oftentimes it's shocking to me that people don't pursue their dreams in that fashion. You know, one time I met this woman, and, you know, she's really into salsa dancing, and she would do the salsa dance. I'd be like, hey, you know, why don't you become a salsa dancer? You're really into this and you're really good at it. And she was like, no, I'm not good enough. Right? It wasn't a discussion about whether or not she wanted to. No, it was just that I don't have the talent for it. Well, yes, you know, I didn't have the talent to be in the NBA. I didn't go into the NBA. But if that really was my dream, so as it unfolded, it wasn't really my dream. Do you know what that would have manifested in? Because I don't. But I can imagine tens of alternatives that would have me involved in the NBA in some regard that would be fulfilling for me. And that would have been in line with my dream. Maybe I'm not Dwayne Wade, but maybe I am the head coach of the Miami Heat. Like, wow, right? Or the assistant coach. Or the guy who's doing the videography for the Miami Heat, who ended up being the head coach. And his name's Eric Spoelstra, right? And he started from position of just looking at the team's videos and editing those, right? And so oftentimes you don't see that puzzle. Because the first step is really identifying, hey, what is it that I'm about? And then pursuing that with everything that you have. That's all you have to do. It's a pretty simple equation. But it's not. It's not, because so many people try to hide that thing from themselves. It can be as clear as day and yet murky at the same time. And that's the confusing aspect, right? It's like, you know, imagine you want to be the next Cristiano Ronaldo. You don't have the skills. Okay, maybe you don't have the skills to be Cristiano Ronaldo, but dude, I mean, you can be, I was going to say Ronaldinho, but that's not a great example either. My knowledge of mediocre soccer players is limited. You know, there are other players out there that you could be, you know. You could coach a soccer team for a preschool. You're not Cristiano Ronaldo by any means, but are you telling me that's not fulfilling? Be honest with yourself. And then you're going to say, okay, but I'm on this path to become whatever and make this amount of money, and that's not going to make me money. Yes, but ask yourself this. What is the consequence of pursuing a life that you don't really believe in your heart, in your core? Because you're going to lose respect from other people, right? As a consequence of losing respect for yourself. Because the more misaligned you are from yourself, the less you derive respect from others. Because I've known this one fact about life, is that the people who command respect in a room, the people who grab your attention, they're the ones who have done the most work to be true to themselves, right? Clowns don't gather attention. Or if they do, it's a quick ha-ha and then everybody turns away. The people who really gather attention in this world are the ones who are about something. They care about something. They're emphatically engaged in something. They're pursuing something. They're putting their whole being in something. So why waste your time, trying to acclimate yourself to the material world and doing something that you don't really care about, when you could just do the thing that you love and that you're passionate about, and understand that you don't know where that's going to take you. You don't know whether you're going to become that thing. You don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. But that one day you might make it. You might make it as that thing, or you might discover something new entirely. Because here's the thing. People get so lost in the mind, they can't see that everything's always changing right before your eyes. You don't know what small step you take today is going to have an insane effect tomorrow. You could wake up tomorrow and make it, but you won't know because you didn't take that step. There's a great quote by a hip hop artist called Token, and he's like, he's a young guy. He says the only person that fails is the one who quit, right? That's all failure really is. It's quitting, Now, you will sometimes find that you fail at something, right? But what it really is that, hey, that didn't work out. I need to try a new strategy. My 3-point jumper isn't falling. Let me do a layup. Or, me shooting the soccer ball from 25 feet out isn't working. Let me go and dribble a little bit closer and then pass it off to my teammate. Or, that business investment that I made, that didn't really work out. I lost a ton of money. Let me go see if maybe I can find a partnership or something like that, right? Like, it's more about changing the strategy as opposed to saying, hey, this whole project needs to go out of the thing and I need to change my identity, right? And, but people are quick to toss out things that are crucial to their success, right? I think about it like this. The people who make it in business, these people, they don't care that they're on their last dollar. Oftentimes, the businesses that make it, they start out in like debt, right? One time when I was looking for a job, I found this Job Hunter website. And on the Job Hunter website, I found a story about their website and how they grew into business. And they were in San Diego, which is a very expensive city. And the woman gave her story about how the first year they were in debt and they were in a very competitive marketplace going against tens of job hunter companies. And job hunters are like companies that are trying to find you jobs and get you in contact with corporations and stuff like this. And so to be a small company in that field, it's just like it's impossible. She stuck through it. And then what I think happened, there was, the 2019 pandemic. And with that came a resurgence after that of people looking for jobs, and her business got going. She made it. Now she's one of the biggest headhunter companies in that area. And, what that really taught me is that, like, a lot of times in life, you're right here. You can't see it from far. You're right here. So you look at it and you're like, the situation is so bleak. It's so dire. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. I don't know how to navigate my life. But it's because you're looking like this, Can you take 5 steps back? And I can tell you that's difficult. It's difficult when you're in a situation of stress. Very difficult to take 5 steps back. But if you can go on a walk, breathe, take 5 steps back and just see, objectively speaking, what is your situation like? I guarantee you it's not as bad as the mind will make it out to seem. The mind is a tricky thing. The mind will have you thinking things that are very far from reality. It is not objective in whatsoever, right? And oftentimes it's not in line with who you are. So you need to check the mind, right? You need to see, like, hey, is this stress that I have about a job or a relationship or a place that I'm in my life, is that warranted or is it artificial, right? Because if you write down a list and you write down your truths, right? Grab a piece of paper and you're like, This, the facts of what it is that's bothering me. And you look at it, if you were to look at that at a time in your life where you weren't dealing with these stress factors and you were going to consider them, how harsh and critical do you think you would be about facing these things? Oftentimes, in fact, I can tell you 100% of the time, you're not going to feel as stressed out about it, right? Because the mind likes to trick you into feeling all that anxiety, you know. Anxiety is there because it's there to push us, but you can get lost in the weeds, right? No anxiety and you just do nothing, you know. It's like people, I imagine, if all you're doing is smoking weed, you know. Although weed can also make you anxious, so depends. But no anxiety and you get nowhere because, like, what is going to push you, right? You need a little bit of stress. You know, you go to the gym, you work out the muscle, you know. But you work out the muscle, and the only way you can work it is by putting on stress. You have to stress the muscle. You have to, you know, stress the fibers, you know, because if you don't stress these fibers, they don't grow. And life is the same way. If you don't stress yourself, how are you going to grow? How are you going to get stronger? You don't get stronger in that way. That's something about life, is that it's like, you know, you got to put yourself out there in the trenches. You got to put yourself out there before other people in order to really discover whether or not you can swim. If you never leave home, you know, like imagine you're like 18 and it's time to go, but you just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to stay here. It's cheaper for me. Stay there 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. You know, the years go by. You never go on your life journey. And you never go on your life journey, you never discover whether or not you can swim. And that's nihilistic. It's nihilistic not to throw yourself out there in life and really see whether or not you can make it, whether or not you can become someone in this world, right? It's a rejection of life. Because here's the reality, nobody knows whether you're going to succeed or fail. You may succeed, you may fail. And it's highly probable that you fail at most things you try to do in your life. Why? Because it's new and you're not experienced at it. But what do the failures teach you, right? The failures teach you how to reroute your life in a way that after succession of failure and failure and failure and failure, you eventually succeed. But if you never take off, how are you going to succeed? That's a question that most people just doesn't register with them, you know. They think one failure has determined their lives, and we don't like to fail, so we don't want to re-experience it. You know, it's like, you know, I went up for the layup and I got blocked. Okay, I'm not going in there anymore. I'm just going to shoot threes. Like, no, you know, maybe the circumstances, maybe you had Shaquille O'Neal and he's the one that blocked you, right? Like, so it's not like that, you know. It's not like that whatsoever. All right. I've been ranting long enough, you know. For the 2 people who have been watching this video, hell, I might even get 0 views. Maybe just me talking to myself. Hey, I like myself. And that's sort of what I've been trying to get across in this whole video. It's like, whatever is going on in the world, whatever is going on with other people, whatever is going on in society, leave all that shit alone and just do you. Do you. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to become everything that you can be, right? And you will never know what that is until you put everything on the line for yourself. So I'll leave you guys with that, you know. And if you are from the 2 people watching this video and you're not subscribed to the channel and you're still watching this video, you're crazy. But I love you. Leave me a like, leave me a subscribe, leave me a comment. It'll go a long way for the videos. All right. Talk to you guys next time.